welcome to Take the Black, your one and only fantasy sci-fi podcast that dives deep into the world of Westeros, Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and perhaps today only, the brand new stage play Game of Thrones: The Mad King, which premiered this week. We have so much to talk about today. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Daniel Roman, the editor of winteriscoming.net, and psyched to be here with my co-host, Marq Nettles of House of Nettles. How you doing, Mark?
This was a doozy of a week. A lot of
Dude.
information, a lot of things. Almost make me feel like this doesn't even feel like a penultimate episode. We need 10 episodes again. I'm not going to keep saying that every week, but I'm like, oh my goodness, it's over next week after this.
Yeah, that feels crazy. I totally agree with you. It the penultimate episode, it's not hitting me quite the same because it does feel like my body, my soul is like, no, that's episode 9. Episode 9's the penultimate episode, but no, it's 7 now. Yeah. So House of the Dragon episode 307, whatever. We're gonna be talking about a lot. It was a big one. There is so much that happened in it for basically every plot line. They kind of didn't do, the old formula of the big showstopper event that Game of Thrones used to do for its penultimate episode. This one lays the foundation for what probably is going to be a pretty big finale, I think. Do you think they're going that route?
100%. It has to be a huge finale with everything coming together. We've been building up for Tumbleton since episode 3. Like everything's been pointing towards something happening.
Yeah, totally. They definitely spent this season. All roads lead to Tumbleton is kind of the attitude. And we wrapped up a lot of stuff that was not Tumbleton centric in this episode to kind of really get us there. So yeah, it's gonna be exciting next week. And I think the finale I saw circulating, it's around 75 minutes long. So that's gonna be a big episode. This one was just over an hour. But before we get into that, why don't we talk about the other thing that has been making crazy waves in the Song of Ice and Fire fandom this week? We're not going to go wicked in depth on this video because we have a whole ass episode of House of the Dragon to talk about. But the stage play, Game of Thrones: The Mad King, premiered after canceling its first week of dates. It finally premiered at Stratford upon Avon, the Royal Shakespeare Theatre. Being really well received, and oh my god, the lore reveals that are coming out of this. So this play is the grand tourney at Harrenhal leading into Robert's Rebellion. Mark, what have you seen about this? Because the info is not out there on main. It's people have been posting on social media what they saw at this play.
So I guess quick spoilers if you don't want to know what's going on with this play, but it has been coming in bits and pieces for me. I've seen apparently Ashara Dane and Ilya Martell had some type of very, very close relationship.
Yes, that's a way of putting it.
a very close friend. History would say they were friends.
Yes.
That confirming Lyanna Stark is the Knight of the Laughing Tree. Was it a big secret to everyone who was seen all the clues, seen all the YouTube videos, the deep dives on YouTube, reading all the articles, all the Reddit articles? Probably not. But now it's 100%, well, 98% confirmed. That was her.
Yeah, totally. So that's the thing with this play. So yeah, like Mark said, if you don't want spoilers for the play, if you're one of the lucky people who's gonna go see this play in the next month or two, maybe close your ears. But for the rest of us, we gotta talk about this. Yeah, so there are, this play, there's a pretty good post about this on Westeros.org that Elio Garcia put up that basically breaks down is this play canon or not? And essentially the writer of this play, Duncan Macmillan, I think. So he used all of the published stuff that George has put out. He also had conversations with George R.R. Martin about the events at Harrenhal because, it's all backstory that we get little bits and pieces of throughout A Song of Ice and Fire. This tourney was held the year before Robert's Rebellion, essentially as a front for Rhaegar Targaryen to gather all the lords of Westeros in one place to hold an informal great council to try and usurp his father, Aerys, who was already known as the Mad King by that point. So Rhaegar wanted to supplant him, take over the Iron Throne because people were dying, people were talking about rebellion, all this sort of stuff. And then stuff went down. Aerys kicked the Hornet's Nest, Robert's Rebellion kicked off. Lyanna snuck off with Rhaegar, even though she was betrothed to Robert Baratheon. Yeah, huge source of drama. It's kind of like the inciting incident for A Song of Ice and Fire a little bit. And now we're getting these big reveals. And like you said, the Night of the Laughing Tree, like people who read close probably figured out that was Lyanna Stark. But that's the sort of thing that is probably like a canon reveal. It's what it feels like to me. Like they weren't like, hey, what if we made Lyanna the Night of the Laughing Tree? Like George must have told them that's who it is.
You know what I always wanted to hold out and say, well, maybe it was Jamie Lannister and he doubled back to jump into the tourney for the booming voice. Maybe that theory is going to get too
Yeah.
deep in the weeds.
Yeah, Jamie came back. He's like, that Howland Reed, that guy seems okay.
Yeah. So we'll never truly know. Well, I guess we definitely know now.
Yeah, we definitely know now, but there's tons of other stuff. Like you said, like Ashara Dane has she's kind of I've read like treated as like the love of Elia's life. So Elia Martell is probably the character who's most fascinating to me about all the stuff that's come out. Essentially that she not only knew Rhaegar had feelings for Lyanna, but she encouraged it because, she viewed her marriage to Rhaegar as like a political one, marriage of convenience, in perhaps slightly stereotypical Dornish fashion. She had lovers. She was fine with the idea of him taking a second wife, kind of like Aegon the Conqueror, especially because, Rhaegar was into the prince that was promised prophecy. Apparently, Lyanna had her own foot in that prophetic world because she's a Stark who had some dreams, as like Bran. So yeah, there's so much stuff coming out about this. If you are watching this podcast, listening to us, whatever, and you want to know more about some of the big things, we have an article up about this at winteriscoming.net. I also would highly recommend following on X, if you're still on, unfortunately, the garbage website that is formerly known as Twitter, at GOT_onstage. Has been they compiled a huge thread of all the things coming out about the play. And yeah, it's a lot. So my question for you, Mark, now that I've rambled a bit, is how do you feel about getting these huge reveals this way? Do you think all of this is canon? Do you think the play still has room to interpret stuff? What do you make of this?
That's what makes it hard on the canon aspect of it. At this point, I would have rather for us to get this information if it wasn't going to be in the books. If he's like, maybe it's been a long history of issues with the Winds of Winter coming out, but I would have loved maybe a short story, a novella with all these events so I can digest it instead of having to get it secondhand from other people's accounts of hearing, getting it through a filtered lens instead of me just being able to consume the material, because it's great. It's easy to say, hey, you can go see the play. I can't afford a ticket to go across the pond.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Out of my budget at this time. It's not, nothing soon coming to the States, let alone where I live at. So I just got to take all this information, I guess say it's canon. Nobody's saying it's not canon. It's a very confusing time. I wish it would have been a different way just to consume it.
Yeah, totally. It's kind of how I felt about the Stranger Things, the first Shadow play, even though like I cared way less about that. But like when they started tying that into season 5 is when I was like, oh, the stuff in the play was actually important. And then they fudged the timeline. Like, Vecna's way older in the play than he was in the show. Like it's a little bit of a mess. This seems better than that in terms of how tightly woven it is to what George R. R. Martin had planned for A Song of Ice and Fire. He's talked about Robert's Rebellion being one thing he's never going to write, essentially, because in his mind, all the big secrets for Robert's Rebellion will come out in one way or another by the end of A Song of Ice and Fire. Of course, he needs to finish the final 2 books of A Song of Ice and Fire for that to be true. But yeah, he has been very clear he doesn't plan to write it. He doesn't want HBO to make a show of it. But hey, the stage play is kind of an interesting way to do it. And apparently the production of the play is like incredible, like really big, crazy puppets. Rhaegar Targaryen has dragon dreams, like Helena, who we're going to talk about from House of the Dragon. And the show, the play dramatizes them like with enormous dragon puppets. So that sounds kind of cool to me. Like I'd love to see it one day, perhaps. But yeah, it's a weird feeling, right? To like have been following something like this for this long of a time, and it's like you're getting these secondhand reveals about what all of this stuff is, because you know, a play is different than a show, right? Like we can all watch a show together, even if you're planning to go see the play. Like we have some writers at Winter's Coming who are gonna see the play, but
Oh.
it's like a couple weeks from now, like a week and a half or whatever from now. So like this stuff is just out there in the meantime. I don't know. It does feel weird. I can't. I'm torn too, man.
Maybe we'll get a. I know sometimes they release the play as a book and you can consume it that way and fill
Yeah.
in the information how need be. So that'll be interesting if they do that in the future. And then I know we'll get to the in the weeds of it. What is canon? Does it count? I mean, nothing happened up on that stage that George didn't approve of. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Uh, so I guess we'll have to wait and see if we get to see it or read it at one point.
Yeah, totally. We know that they talked to George when they were adapting the play, and that, this is an adaptation. So it's kind of like,
Mm.
this is the point that like, Westeros.org made, was the high level things probably came from George, the Night of the Laughing Tree, identity, Rhaegar and Lyanna's motivations, like they willingly ran off together. Ilya approved of it. Those sorts of things probably came from George. But some of the little nuances of the relationships and the scene by scene drama, like they still had to make it work as a play.
Yeah.
So, whatever else, the smaller things, there's a lot of little dramas, like Aerys Targaryen is apparently pretty awful. Go figure. The Mad King. Apparently, there's a spot in it where Robert Baratheon's parents had died via shipwreck. Aerys gives Robert a model of his parents' ship to commemorate their death, and it's just a bunch of broken like planks in a box of water.
Okay.
Stuff like that, where it's like, I don't know that came from George, but that's hilarious, and they had to flesh these things out. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, anything that comes from George, he's a gardener, not an architect, as he likes to say. Like two writing styles, architect's a Brandon Sanderson who plans everything years in advance. George likes to figure stuff out as he goes, see what feels right when he's writing. He has the big benchmarks, but the scene by scene is liable to change literally as he sits there working on it. So that kind of applies to basically anything in this play until and unless he publishes it. We just don't know exactly how close it is. So
Mm.
yeah, we'll see. Um, do you have anything else you want to say about the play before we get into our main event? This is the sort of thing where it's like, normally, we didn't even really have this on the docket, but this is a big enough deal that like we had to at least mention that it's a thing.
Yeah, no, I think we've mentioned everything that needs to, and I just hope maybe one day we'll the play will come here and everybody from Winter is coming. We'll be able to go and see it.
Me too. Me too. Um, yeah, so on to House of the Dragon, because we're on the penultimate episode. It's a big one. This thing touched on basically all the big running plot lines. We got lots of stuff with Helena, lots of stuff, unfortunately, at Harrenhal. Big dragon fights, some very cool payoffs, some good foreshadowing for the first battle of Tumbleton, presumably coming in the season finale. Um, you want to start at the beginning? Where you want to start for this one, Mark?
I
Your
like
choice.
I like going from Helena into Heron Hall. I think that's a good setup.
Yeah, we can
'Cause-
do one thing I loved and one thing I hated. Let's start it that way. I had a lot of issues with Harren Hall, if you can't tell.
it was a choice. Felt a little
Oh
House of Dragons
God,
season 2 when we got there.
what a juke. Okay, yeah. So let's touch on Helena first before we get into this. So Helena, we start in one of her dreams, where she's walking outside which is all she's wanted this whole season. Poor Helena. She just wants to be outside. She's at the Red Keep. The door's open, and it looks like there could be some fire or something out there. And then Rhaenyra is being all unhinged at her, demanding she tell her stuff from her dreams
Yeah.
and, hurting her by grabbing her arm and all this stuff. We do see some dreams later for Helena as well. So, what did you make of the Helena material in this episode? We can kind of talk about it all at once, I think, the Helena stuff.
Yeah, I definitely didn't like how Rhaenyra was upset at her sister, like asking
Nah.
asking those very pointed questions, knowing that that's not how the dreams work. The dreams don't give us those direct answers that you're looking for.
Yep.
But the dreams in general, was it all amazing to finally see Helena on her dragon? Yes. Was it in a
Yes.
dream? I feel like that was the closest we ever got to see Dreamfire, like super close up like that.
Yeah, I think they gave Dreamfire a redesign here. So we saw Dreamfire. There are 2 times in this show we have seen Dreamfire, and both are very fleeting glimpses in season 1. So in the 6th episode of season 1, when Aemond is kicking around the dragon pit, there's a dragon down there that breathes fire at him when he's a little kid and he runs out. That was Dreamfire. So we caught like a glimpse of Dreamfire there. And then Dreamfire is also at the funeral on Driftmark in episode 7. But again, like, we get like, it's like a background shot, like there are a bunch of dragons on a cliff and Dreamfire is one of them. So this is like clearly the best footage of Dreamfire. They made a choice. Presumably Helena, won't get the chance to be on Dreamfire in the show. So they were like, we're gonna at least show her on Dreamfire once, which thank you, House of the Dragon, for at least doing that. But yeah, cool to see a different dragon that honestly I kind of worried we weren't even going to get to see Dreamfire this season. So I will take the vision.
Exactly, but I think probably one of the most important things was when she was talking to Rhaenyra about the relationship between Dragon Rider and the dragon, and how it feels like it's changes something inside of her, let alone the other Dragon Riders when they are together. I'm like, what is that change going on? Is it a bond? Is it a crossing their like emotions across each other? Is it feeding something from the dragon to the person, or vice versa? Like, what is that happening?
Yeah, totally. And she makes some really good points, and it's Rhaenyra can't really argue them. She kind of wants to, right? She, just like when Allison said the throne's going to change you, and she was like, no, I disagree with that. You could see that Rhaenyra was starting to do that, but like the proof is right there. Like she's acting differently than she did before. So yeah, I didn't love that Helena, talked about not writing Dreamfire as an adult. This is my book purist heart a little bit, just because she's like an avid dragon rider in the book. But I do think it works for what they have done with Helena in the show. And to be fair, I do really like what they've done with Helena in the show. I think Fia Sabin, who plays her, is doing a great job. But yeah, I mean, Rhaenyra is definitely pretty unhinged in these scenes, demanding these things of Helena is just like, what are you doing? She's really gone off the deep end.
Yeah, Rhaenyra just wants answers to why she should be winning, and it's like Elena is like, I don't know. It doesn't, and so of course in the audience, we're like, it doesn't seem like you should be. You should be ahead, and you're not ahead.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel that way pretty firmly at this point? Like Rhaenyra is not really showing she should be ahead.
No, yeah, 100%. Like this, if you ask me, like, oh, should is Rhaenyra justified, or does it seem like she's earned the throne? If it's between Rhaenyra and Aegon, I would say no, not her, not Aegon either. I don't know who should be on the throne at that point.
Yeah, it's pretty fair. I didn't expect them to make it such a very clear parallel with Rhaenyra and Aegon, where like both are just not equipped to be rulers. Like Aegon's first attempt pretty much just goes sideways. He had the benefit of a bunch of seasoned politicians around him who like were preparing for this coup for years. Rhaenyra doesn't have that, and like is so paranoid. She's like getting the worst counsel she can. Like she's got Sabitha Frey, who's like really just wants Harrenhal. I kind of chuckled at the scene in this where Sabitha's complaining about Harrenhal, and Rhaenyra's like, go take it then. And her like face lights up, and she's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Torrent Manderley, who knows at this point he's a scapegoat because Rhaenyra
Yes.
names him as the problem. Like, woof. So yeah, Rhaenyra she's making a mess of it, I think.
Yes, and unfortunately affecting our sweet dragon rider Helena. So
Yeah.
hopefully, and then those dreams. I know during I want to say the off season, prior to the show coming out this season, they like announced that casting for an older Jahara or her daughter, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting. That they're showing her older. Is there going to be a time jump? What's going to happen? Then it's like, oh no, it just happened in this vision. We saw her two children older, and of course, the her son definitely not gonna be older. Our boy lost his head,
Yeah.
but so I'm like, oh, was that it? Was this just like a stunt casting to tell us this information just for it to be like this quick little dream?
I 100% think so. Yeah. I 100% think so. And yeah, I mean, we get that little chicken vision because she wanted to raise chickens.
Yeah,
And we also got they also juked us with the pregnancy, Helena giving birth scene that was in the trailers for this season, that there was so much speculation of she's going to give birth to Maelor, who's the missing kid that caused a lot of drama with George R. R. Martin, that they cut Maelor because it basically ruined Blood and Cheese the way they did it, to not have that kid there. So it seemed like she was going to give birth to him. She's pregnant, but then we find out here it's this vision, and the kid gets taken away from her in the vision. So
I, I
I don't
don't
know
think
what's gonna.
yeah, I don't think we're gonna get Maylor at this point. I feel like Allison probably gave her some moon tea in that food before she left, and that's why she's laying in bed looking a little disheveled. Of course, from the dragon dreams and being confined, but also from that moon tea maybe caused, because we saw it cause discomfort to Allison, and she wasn't pregnant. I can only imagine what's happening to Helena right now.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't clock that at first, that the soup might have been laced with stuff, but I think you probably are right about that. And yeah, I'm not, we don't need to talk about it for spoilers, but I'm real nervous about where Helena is going in the season finale, and how they're going to justify where she goes. Let's just put it that way.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
But for now, why don't we talk about some good old fashioned Oedipus over at Harrenhal? I won't lie, I watched this episode. I was like, why are they doing this to us? Why are they doing this to me personally, making me watch this again? Um, yeah, it starts with Allison and Aemon making out, and then that turns out to be a vision. A Harrenhal vision, thankfully, but the actors still had to do the scene. We still had to watch the scene. This show just really wants to dig into the Oedipal issues of it all. Um, Thoughts? Poor
I,
Olivia Cook.
it seems like they really wanted this to be a bigger subplot, and maybe it was supposed to develop into something that I don't know if it's coming across the screen that like he just wants his mother so bad over everything. He's ready to start a kingdom with his two queens, one being Alex Rivers, the other one
Uh,
being
uh,
mom.
the ick.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it just is really out of left field that he like this has definitely been one of his dreams for a long time. I'm like, okay, sure thing, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, so I was glad at least that the scene is a fake out. Then we see the real Allison show up. Adrian Redfort, I think, right, is the Kingsguard knight who took her there. Aemond immediately kills him. There's some fun. I'm gonna put that in quotations because I really loathe this Harrenhal sequence. I feel like it's just a total waste of all the actors in it. Like, this show has not known what to do with Allison in particular this season. So it's like the thing they decided is she's going to betray all her kids over and over again. Like she lied to Helena about getting Jahara out. She was never going to get Jahara out. She's possibly trying to slip her moon tea. We started with her betraying Aegon. Now she's poisoning Aemond, as we see later in this episode. I'm baffled by the choices they made with this. And then Aemond has really been reduced to the Oedipal issues of it all. Um, how do you feel about the fact that Aemond has essentially mirrored Daemon at this point? He spent the entire season at Harrenhal from
Soon
episode
as
2 to now.
soon as he was going to leave, he got pulled right back in with Alice, and
Yep.
I, I don't. I know they want them to mirror each other so bad, but I I wholly thought like this is just going to be like a quick thing. He's gonna be there. He'll feel better, and then he'll eventually get with Alice, and they could be out doing dragon adventures.
Yeah.
And to make this whole thing, Vagar trying to protect you or being manipulated by Alice, and she's just flying around burning things, throwing a diversion up that no one knows except for Helena, Alice, and Rhaenyra. Now, it's gotten a little wild, convoluted, and not in a good way, not in a fun
Yeah.
way for a show.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of good stuff in this episode. So I don't want it to sound like we're just going to be ragging on episode 7 the whole time, but
Yeah.
this is like my least favorite part of the whole season, I think, is this whole is how they've handled Allison and Aemond. It really does kind of feel like they're treading water. Like they knew they wanted him there with Alice Rivers, then I guess he'll just leave at the end of the season. Like I do you think they'll try to tie him into Tumbleton or something? Like I'm a little nervous about what they'll think is a fitting climax for Aemond this season.
Oh, I don't think they'll try to tie him to Tumbleton. I think
I
it
hope
seems pretty
not.
yeah, it seems pretty clear what's going to be the big uh heel turn down there at Tumbleton, but
Yeah.
I can see them maybe they'll anoint him as king, Alice, and maybe there'll be a few green men there and the two other people that are in here. Apparently Harrenhal is just empty. It was this big deal
Yeah.
to secure this castle because it was so important, but there is not a soul there except for this lady. So I can see it maybe being a crowning, maybe announcing that, hey, I am here and I'm going to bring justice to the Riverlands and Westeros as a whole. I can only hope.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely it's definitely some weird stuff. And yeah, I mean, Olivia Cook and Ewan Mitchell now kissed more than most actors on this show, which I don't particularly like. Um, so I'm just hoping that, just like we did with Damon, we can leave all this Harrenhal stuff behind in the finale, even though like he's still going to be circling it with the Riverland. Sabbath of Frey is now presumably going to head to Harrenhal. That's a thing from the book Sabbath of Frey with Harrenhal. So even if Aemond leaves, he's going to be back to Harrenhal next. He's not going to make it too far.
Yeah, maybe that'd be a reason for Vagar to come back. There's finally an army out there that wants to cause harm, or an army just want to
Yeah.
occupy Harrenhal at all.
Yeah. The travel times are also pretty whack with Harrenhal. We've had the Winter Wolves trying to make their way south for literally the whole season, and like Kristen's slowing them, but in that time, Gwaine went to Tumbleton, Alicent went to Harrenhal. Like
Yeah.
people are zipping around when they need them to.
Yeah, I'm okay with a little fast travel, but if you're gonna have the fast travel, it better have that solid story plot around that we all know and love. And I think they're getting a little loose with Harrenhal and Aemon One Eye right now.
Yeah, totally. The one place I think that the traveling has worked probably better than anywhere else is Aegon and Sunfire. So they feel like they're going around to a lot of different places and it's kind of quick, but like that's actually because that's the region they're in. They're in the Crown Lands. These keeps are like close to like a day or two apart, like relatively close. So they try to ride for Maidenpool in this episode because they want to catch a ship to Essos. And then, surprise, surprise, the Mootons, who are loyal to Rhaenyra, basically like corral them because they're just going around to all of the local castles, getting everyone to swear to Rhaenyra. And it's a big episode for Aegon because he decides to stop running. He's just had enough. He says, if I'm going to die, I'll die as a king, standing like a king. And then we get like, I think probably one of the best scenes of the season, the return of Sunfire.
The zombie dragon.
Zombie Sunfire. He's looked better.
Yeah, not the dragon kissed by the sun anymore. Maybe
No.
a couple shadows in there.
Yeah.
I think that was a great scene for Aegon, a great episode for Aegon. Him just coming to
Yeah.
the realization, I want to stand. I want to be a king of the people. If this is my last stand, so be it. Of course,
Yeah.
he lost his 2 pirate friends who were there with them. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're not gonna die for this."
Yeah. That's
Uh,
fine. Laris is
and
like, "Yeah, I don't need to die either."
and Larry's like, if you command me, I do enjoy that about Larry. He said, if you command me, I'll stay here, but I can't do anything to help you here.
Yeah.
Maybe Larry seems like he's ready to be that extra agent of chaos that we need in the story at another location. So I'm like, all right, kudos to that. And I know you called it last week about the mutants hunting for Tywin Lannister to find that
Yes.
damn gold.
Yeah.
So yeah, good call. That completely makes sense. And Tylen gets to live another day. I just knew he was getting captured. I'm like, oh, they're gonna get Tylen. I don't know. Well, I knew Sunfire was gonna come back, but I'm like, all right, Sunfire's gonna save Aegon, and Tylen's gonna be captured, and that's gonna be it. But no,
Yeah.
not this episode.
Yeah, I was glad to see Tylen slip the noose there. Because yeah, you're right. Like I totally expected they were gonna catch Tylen and bring him back. I still am a little afraid that we're gonna end this season like with Rhaenyra torturing Tylen, and that'll be like the very bleak note we end on for Rhaenyra or something. But I love that, like, Aegon's had a great season. Aegon's all off book this season, and that's fine. Like, it's one of those things where it's like we all knew that was going to be the case because he just kind of he's like Theon in Game of Thrones, where he just disappears for a while and then he comes back and he's changed. Not quite as much as Theon, but I think this payoff was really, really good. And like I loved his speech. Tom Glenn Carney is just like acting his ass off as Aegon. Like he's one of my favorites every single time he's on screen. And I loved like some of the staging for this scene. Like there's a shot where it's behind Aegon and he's kind of got his arms outstretched and he's holding a sword. And like that is I think he's holding a sword. I might be wrong about it. I need to rewatch. But it very clearly mirrors a shot from his coronation in the first season where it's him from behind in the crowd, except here it's these soldiers. He's like a beggar king and he's still just proclaiming himself king, and then Sunfire comes. I feel like that's gonna go down as like an all-timer scene for this season, if not the show.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one I remember when I think of this show. The
Me too.
reemergence of Sunfire and Aegon getting to hold his head up. Now, I swore he was gonna when he turned his back and looks like he was gonna run away, that he was gonna pull his crown from his bag and put it back on his head. I
I
thought
thought
that would
so
have been
too.
yeah. I'm like, oh, no crown, still
Yeah.
good. And did Sunfire only have one eye or no eyes? Because I was like, I know one looks like it's burnt to a crisp.
I thought it was one, but
Okay.
again, I need to rewatch and squint because it's in the dark and Sunfire's face is all mangled on the one side. Definitely not Sunfire the Golden anymore. But yes, it's official at this point. We can stop with this ridiculous mystery of whether Sunfire is alive or not. Sunfire is alive. He's back in the mix. Now we got to see what happens because, you know, in the book, Sunfire goes to Dragonstone and then Aegon kind of follows him because he hears it's alluded that he hears rumors that this new dragon is on Dragonstone. Obviously, it's going to work out differently here because they're already reunited.
Yes. I wonder if Sunfire will be able to fly or how bad the injuries were. So it's assume Sunfire hasn't eaten in almost a month and a half, 2, maybe 3 months at this time. So
Yeah.
we'll see what kind of strength they have to make that journey.
Yeah, Sunfire's got to go take some notes from its buddy, its cousin Sheep Stealer, who
Yeah.
obviously knows the best way to stay, satiated is to eat all the local flocks. You want to talk about the Sheep Stealer of it all?
Yeah. That Sheep Sailor was it was interesting. I liked it and didn't like certain points, but
Yeah.
essentially we have Damon going to the Vale of the Arryn, confronting Jane Eyre about, hey, where's my daughter? What's happening? And he does go out and find Sheep Stealer and Rhaena, who are saying they're in the Riverlands hunting Vagar by themselves. Like that's ridiculous. Like why would you even think to do
Yeah.
that? Ridiculous concept. And while they are out afoot, uh she's like they turn their backs and they see two more dragons coming, and she just assumed her dad's the betrayed her. You brought them here to capture her. And he's like, no, that's not me. I'm not the reason they're here right now. They're following me, Rhaenyra, because Rhaenyra just wasn't trusting Damon, and for good reason, a little bit, kind of. And now then we had a whole
Yeah.
bunch of dragon madness ensue. Everyone trying to keep their dragons back, revealing that Rhaena was the dragon rider, she's stealer that whole time. And then we got an awesome dragon fight.
We did. We did. There was a big old dragon fight. I think this is the first time we've really had 4 dragons on screen kind of
Yeah.
going at it all at once. That was cool. I loved, the big plus to this scene for me is a few dragons who otherwise would not really feature at all getting a little
Mm.
bit of screen time. So Cyrax really doesn't do very much for this stretch of the dance. So I like Cyrax getting a little bit more to do. Cyrax got injured. Presumably that's going to play into some stuff with the Dragon Pit next season. Cyrax probably is not in the best way, even though, she still flew Rhaenyra and Rhaena home. So she's not like out of commission or anything. Sea Smoke also really hasn't gotten a lot of material this season. So yeah, the dragons were cool. I have a lot of questions about this sequence. I feel like this sequence epitomizes the episode to me, where it's like
Mm.
the rule of cool applies. It was cool, but it was also a little messy and kind of like unhinged. Like you said, like Rhaena's just out there hunting Vagar on her own. There's a lot of stuff that's like implied to have happened between episodes, but like doesn't 100% make sense either. Like Daemon confronts Jane Eyre about it and is like, she was supposed to stay hidden here. And it's like, when did you guys ever talk about Rhaena being hidden in the Vale? Like, how does Daemon even know Jane Eyre knows about this? I felt this way last episode too, when Jane Eyre was like, you were supposed to stay in your cave like we agreed. And it's like, she never told her stay in a cave. Like, she said Sheep Stealer is going to go roost where Sheep Stealer roosts. If you want to hide out in the Vale, essentially feel free. But like, how she know what cave she's in? Like they didn't pick one.
Yeah, even now I'm thinking about it. How were they been able to find Sheep Stealer, but no one can find Vagar? Like, what's the difference here? How is this happening?
Yeah, totally. So there are some things like that I feel a little torn on, that don't 100% make sense. I also I don't know how to feel about. So if this is the end of Rhaena's arc with Sheep Stealer, she's back at the castle now. She's back in like princess bedclothes. So I'm assuming we're gonna get like Rhaena's princess arc, I'll call it, which is what she has in the book. In the book, she stays in the Vale of Arryn. She kind of hangs out there for the whole entire length of the war. It's a little bit of a contrast between her and Baela, because Baela's involved in stuff and Rhaena isn't. And then I'll spoil this. I don't think this is too massive of a spoiler. It's so long game that I feel like it's fine. At the very end of the war, Rhaena hatches another dragon, and it's kind of like the sliver of hope for House Targaryen that they could have dragons again, even though it doesn't really work out that way. I assume that's kind of what they're going to do with her now. So, like, do you think we've seen the last of Sheep Stealer here?
I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know what's going to happen. I do think she's going to get back the Sheep Stealer. I do.
You do? Okay.
Some way, somehow, she's going to get back there. I do. But I assume we may see the end of Sheep Stealer. They were badly injured in that fight. I don't know how much more help they will be to the war effort. Will Rhaena get that little pink dragon she hatches at the end of the war? I think they're going to do that too. Like, why not?
Yeah.
It's a cool dragon to have, and like you said, it gives that last bit of hope that maybe House Targaryen can survive, and it does for another 150 years. Just with no dragons. To I say, but I know we said this, but it was cool. Just that's like kind of all it really had that they were giving us. Cool. Just a lot of crazy dragon fighting, but I'm like, how does this convoluted? And I agree with I agree with Rhaenyra. Like, do you think I was going to execute Rhaenyra if I found out that was her? If I'm like 100%, if you would have explained, hey, this was a complete accident, this is what happened, will you have been treated like Baela? Maybe a little worse, maybe exiled? Yeah, but I don't think none of this had to happen.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think, especially because Rhaenyra, the show has made a big thing of leaning into Rhaenyra's spiritual side, for lack of a better word, this season. And I think if someone had told her Rhaenyra's Sheep Stealer's rider, she basically claimed a wild dragon, not necessarily on accident, but she claimed a wild dragon and it went rogue. Like Rhaenyra almost treats it like she's rescuing Rhaena in the scene where the dragons are all fighting. Like she gets her on the dragon on Cyrax and they fly off together. So yeah, I totally think this is did any of this really need to happen? It also feels like they knew they were going to combine Nettles and Sheeps and Rhaena for better or worse, but they didn't really know what to do with Rhaena after that because so the gullet happened, and since then, Rhaena basically has just been sitting in a cave all season. Like, she had the one scene where she saw Daemon and asked Daemon to lie for her, which we just mentioned. Like, did you really need to do that? But beyond that, like, if this is the end of Rhaena and Sheep Stealer, so like even like you said, even if she sees Sheep Stealer again, Sheep Stealer is basically out of commission. I feel like we didn't get any development for like what their bond is like. Like, I don't know if Rhaena loves Sheep Stealer, if Sheep Stealer loves Rhaena. I don't know if Rhaena felt like a captive of Sheep Stealers, almost like King Kong with I forget the woman's name in King Kong, but like, like, is it that kind of situation? Because that's almost how this episode makes it seem, where she's like, I can't control him, and then they get her out of there. It's like, what is their bond? I have no idea. Like, that's the sort of stuff they could have done with that time that they just didn't. So just like her eating blackberries in a cave occasionally. So yeah, it feels a little like a way, like this is what we cut Nettles for, is kind of how I feel.
Yeah, and for like you said, for Rhaenyra to immediately save her, how much cooler would it have been if we would have got a secret identity type plot? That's what I thought they were going to do. Maybe we'll get like a Nettles mention, secret dragon rider out there.
100% what I thought they were going to do. Yeah,
Damon's trying to tell her, don't worry, they're on our side. They're here to help, but definitely went.
Yeah, sounds like we're pretty much on the same page with the Rhaena and Sheep Stealer. So let me ask you one other thing. And I think we can be light on the spoilers here. We don't need to talk about the deets of what will happen. Yeah. But there's this battle that's going to happen next season called the Battle Above the God's Eye, which is like an iconic part, probably one of the most iconic parts of the Dance of the Dragons, is this fight above the God's Eye. Nettles and Daemon, Sheep Stealer's rider is essentially what leads into that. Rhaenyra gets so paranoid that she puts out a hit on Nettles, Sheep Stealer's rider. Daemon finds out about this because the lord they're staying with feels bad and says, hey, I got this order. I don't really want to follow it, but I'm telling you so you can decide what to do. And then Nettles just like flies off into history. We never find out what happened to them. I feel like I can spoil all this because now, like, it's going to happen totally differently. Because if Rhaena's no longer Sheep Stealer's rider, the whole mystery of Sheep Stealer's rider is no longer a thing. What do you think this means for the setup for the Battle Above the God's Eye, broadly speaking?
I mean, if I was a betting man, I would think that there's still going to be some type of bounty placed on the Dragon Seas that causes that division, and that maybe with some Daemon worried about his daughter wants to get her to safety, maybe away from King's Landing. So I definitely see something like that possible. And because in Fire and Blood, I always felt there was something about Daemon's fight over the God's Eye that made me feel that maybe Sheep Stealer and Nettles were involved in it somehow. So that's why I think maybe there can still be some small involvement of them in that fight somehow, some way, somehow, however they write it.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm definitely curious. That's probably going to be like a mid to late season 4 thing. So we'll have to wait a few years to find out
I don't
how.
know how they fit all th- these different battles and things that I know they complain about it costing a lot of money, but it's like I feel like they keep pushing things off, and it's like what's going to be the end point because it's all going to be a big spectacle at this point for the whole season.
Yeah. So here's my issue with the it costs a lot of money argument because it's true. These things do cost a lot of money to produce. The battles, the dragons, all that stuff. Um at the same time, this is what they chose to spend the money on was the a dragon fight in this episode that is has no basis in the books and like barely makes sense if you squint at it just right and maybe have had a
Mm,
few beers like it like the coherence is really not there. Like rule of cool, it's a fun time, it's a romp, bunch of dragons going at it. But they could have chosen to do one, the fish feed or some battle from the book in the honey wine. They could have
mhm,
chosen to do one of the narrative beats that actually makes sense instead of this, and they didn't. So
mhm.
that's why I'm like, I don't know if I buy, they're all choices, right? They're all opportunity costs, and this is what they chose. So, I mean, you're right, obviously. I don't know how they fit all the big things. My guess is they don't, and they cut some, but I don't know what they cut, you know. I would never have guessed they were going to cut the fish feed before this season, and they did. So we'll
Ah,
see, I get. But the God's Eye they can't cut.
I
That's
mean,
the one we basically know is safe. They cannot
I,
cut that.
I don't know. Every day I get a little more worried that that was an hour of the wolf. I don't know if that's going to be in that season at all at this point.
Yeah, I think I've seen people talk about this on like Reddit and stuff like will we get a whole episode for Hour of the Wolf for how many episodes? It's like I imagine it's like the last half of the finale or something, like I don't see us getting more than an episode for the wrap up and honestly probably less. I bet they do it kind of similarly to Game of Thrones, which we all know how well that went over, where like the finale, you know, John kills Danny halfway through the finale. It won't be quite that clear cut, hopefully, with whatever works out in this. I think they'll use the last two episodes, but yeah, and then the last half is Hour of the Wolf, and maybe we'll know who Black Alley is by then because nobody who hasn't read the book has any idea who that character is.
Another casting where they say, "Hey, they're going to be in the show," and it's like, I guess they're there. We see them. That's awesome. But
Yeah.
I think it'll be kind of funny if the hour of the wolf and that whole plot point doesn't even take an hour in the TV show. That'll be
The half hour of the wolf.
oh gosh, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of pulling names from the book and kind of just saying like, yeah, that's it's going to be cool, right? I guess so.
Yeah, it's tough because I hate to be like one of those people who's like poo-pooing on it's different than the book, like it's worse and like, the show has to do its own thing. But
Yeah,
to some extent it's also like they're basically choosing to jettison all this material that like probably would have made the show better. So that's what makes it painful and it's like and that's not even like, you know, big understandable things, changing certain like they can't do every battle from the book. Like I get that. Like fully like the book is just a list of battles at a certain point and like you can't do that but like like we said with Reyna and Nettles and stuff it's like what are we doing here? It's a little how I felt with the dragon fight. Like I enjoyed watching dragons bite each other but I was also like what are we doing here a little bit.
yeah, it's one of those things when you do change, and of course I'm 100% change it and make it better. But when you change it and it's like, oh, you didn't approve on it, it's like it's bad when I speak to my wife and I tell her, oh, this is a line like the line they cut for when Kristen Cole at the butcher's ball,
uh
and she was like, oh yeah, that definitely would have made that scene better. It was a little confusing, and she loves the show. I mean, she
yeah.
loves watching the show. She's had her own grasp with it as well. But she's like,
Yep.
when I certain things when I tell her, and she's like, that makes sense. That I didn't get that from what they were showing us. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I have that same exact experience with my wife, like talking about this where there are some things where I'm like, this is how it went down in the book, and this is why I don't know how much sense it makes. And she's like, yeah, that sounds like it makes a little more sense. Um, the Kristen thing, this is a brief detour. It kills me that they cut that line that they had set up in the previous episode, but they kept a bunch that like didn't really make sense in the context. Like Kristen, being like, one of me against the two of you, that'll make a fight of it. Like a great line. You can't cut that line. But also, he's saying it to an old man and a little kid. It's totally different than the book where he's like saying it to like a few like hardened warriors. Like
Yeah.
Roddy can be in the mix, but like, like, is that really like a big boasty thing from Kristen? He's saying it to an old man and a little kid. Like, I
It
like, no disrespect to Oscar Tully, but he's not the first person anyone chooses for a duel with Kristen Cole. You know what I
no
mean?
that's a how much would it have been to just have two people stand on either side of them?
Exactly. Yes.
It's like a choice, and but you're like, oh well, we don't want to confuse the audience, but you have this random lady shooting arrows that nobody's ever mentioned, and we only seen her one time.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's stuff like that where it's like the choices are weird and they're not always big budget choices. Like the dragons, that's where they chose to make their budget. But like the scripting things like that, where it's like you keep that line with Kristen where he's like, yeah, I'll fight you, little teenage Oscar Tully. And also where he's like, a lot of your men will die if you attack me. And it's like, Kristen, you have literally like 20 dudes. Like that threat, that again, that's a line straight from the book. It's a good line.
Yeah,
But in the context of the show, it sounds goofy as hell because he has no army with him. So it's like just a lost in translation from the script to the screen type thing, and
yeah.
we're leaving off the most iconic line from the end of it. So stuff like that where I'm like, I don't know who made these. I mean, we know more or less who probably made these decisions, but yeah, it's baffling. So House of the Dragon, this episode, Ormond Hightower embodies this episode, I think, where it's entertaining but a bit of a mess at times. Um, do we want to wrap around to Ormond and Tumbleton? I think that's the last big section we have to talk about here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whew.
We have our man our man Ormond Hightower. We see him down there. Uh, they're trying to get everything ready. They know the Winter Wolves and the Rivermen are marching, and they're about a day's march away. I think they indicate.
Yeah.
And Gwaine and Dayron, they're having a conversation. They're like, I don't know what the plan is. What's going to happen? They're confused. We're confused as the audience until we see Corlys there. They're having a meal, and he's just like, "Hey, man, we have you here. Your men aren't going to want to fight for Rhaenyra, knowing that their lord is captured." And I 100%, I'm thinking that's the plan the whole time. I don't know if you did at that point.
Yes. Yeah, I did like the Ormond says he has like a piece on the board or whatever he says. He
Yes.
implies he's got an ace in the hole, and I like that it made it seem like that was Corlys, like Corlys
Mhm.
being captured. And I like the scene with Corlys and Ormond as well. Bunch of really good actors in a room and
Yes.
people we don't normally get to see have scenes together, and like a few powerful people, right? Where the power dynamic is a bit more even, I think.
Mhm.
Ormond is Corlys is his prisoner, but he's still Corlys friggin' Valerion. Like he still affords a certain amount of respect. So yeah, I mean, I totally thought that too. I like the juke though.
Yes, yes, yes. Because of course that happens. I know that happens at the end of the episode where we finally see that Ormond has been treating with off the white the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
or off the salt. Uh,
Yeah.
that was his true piece. That he was able to flip a dragon rider and really play up to all Ulf's gripes he's had with Rhaenyra. Like he's treated him like an equal. He's talking about the disrespect he's been dealing with Daemon, and kind
Yep.
of indicating like that's not going to happen here. And how will it feel to be the lord of your own castle, possibly the lord of Driftmark?
Yep. Yep. I think, and we know, right? We know that Ormond is lying to Ulf because Ormond had his whole speech an episode ago about people who are, not bred into a position of power. They social climb and how he doesn't trust that. And
Hmm.
Ulf is like, Ulf is not trying to be a social climber, but that's the position he's in. He was a peasant. Now he's a dragon rider. It's kind of exactly. And when Ormond gave that speech, it cut to Hugh in the last episode. So like they're pretty clearly setting up that Ormond will betray Ulf at some point. Ulf's probably too dumb to realize it's coming.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're right. He's saying all the things Ulf wants to hear after Rhaenyra has just and Daemon have just treated him like shit for an entire season for more or less no reason. They really haven't established super well. I feel like they've been a little heavy-handed with the mistreatment of the dragon seeds because it's been like every single time Damon's in the room with them, he's treating them like garbage.
Yeah.
And again, not to be a in the book guy, I have to reference this. Damon wants to make them lords in the book. So this is like it's a more complicated thing where it's like they've clearly been trying to appease them in the book and then they still betray. Here it's like they've just been getting crapped on constantly all season. It's no surprise that Ulf is ready to turn coat and join the Greens, especially when Ormond's given him some ale. And all he wanted was one ale with the lads. And Ormond is like, I'll be your lad. You know, Ormond's drinking with, forget barring him from the tavern. Ormond is drinking with him, you know?
Yeah, sitting down with him. How easy would it have been for Orban to kill him right now? And he has all his men surrounding him, but it's like, hey, I need you. I really need your dragon. That's the
Yeah,
most important part of you right now. You have the dragon. If I can get that to my side, great. And I like how he asked for a honey hole. I'm pretty sure the honey hole is in the Reach.
I think so. Yeah.
And
Sounds
he's
like a
like,
Reach castle, right?
yeah, yeah. It's
Couldn't
like
be anywhere else.
I don't even want to pretend to have you anywhere near the Reach near my
Yeah.
castle. How about the Lord of the Tides on the
Yeah.
other side of the
Go on an
continent?
island over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like Tom Bennett, who plays Ulf. His acting in this scene, it was like the only time Ulf has been like a little bit scary, which I
Yeah.
thought was a really nice touch. Like for all my issues with the episode, I loved this ending stinger that perfectly sets up the first battle of Tumbleton that is going to happen next week, presumably. Um, how do you feel about the fact that like they came into this season with like now there will be battles, the dance of the dragons, and they basically had one at the beginning and one at the end, and then the butcher's ball in the middle.
But
But that is, you know, that's it's a skirmish into an anticlimax where it fades to black, which is the whole point of the butcher's ball. I think they did, aside from the line things we mentioned, I think they did the butcher's ball fairly well.
yeah, it's a lot of eluded battles and kind of bad. Us hearing about some skirmishes here and there. Uh, more than we've gotten in previous seasons. So it definitely felt like okay. It felt like a lot of fighting, but how hard would it have been to mention maybe a few more battles along the way? It's like everything kind of stopped after that first big battle, and then we got the butcher's ball, and I was like really it, and up until hopefully we get something in Tumbleton next episode.
Yeah. I feel like one of House of the Dragons, like things that trips it up, and I've heard Ryan Condal, the showrunner, talk about this in interviews where he was saying how he was explaining this to George R. R. Martin back when they were still talking, that when they did a sequence, they did a battle or something, they did a big episode, they needed to go really big, you know, and that's why the Red Sewing is this massive production when it's kind of like a montage almost in the book of people trying to tame dragons and getting eaten. Um, eh, I feel like that's the attitude they brought to this season. They probably sank a lot of resources into the Gullet and Tumbleton.
Mm,
Um, I could have done with a few more things like the Butcher's Ball, honestly. Like not massive, enormous battles, but like, you know, give us a bit of skirmishes, some archers doing stuff, make us feel like the realm is at war a little more
mm,
directly with smaller snippets of stuff happening. Like I liked you know, Kristen raiding the Rivermen camp at the beginning of
yeah.
episode 5. Things like that, where it's like it feels like there's a war on instead of it's, you know, we've got this big battle at the end. The beginning, we'll have a big battle at the end. And the pacing wise, it's almost a little wider of a breach than season 2 because they had Rook's Rest right in the middle, which
Yeah.
was like the biggest episode of the season. So yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's going to be interesting to look back on kind of the choices they've made in this show.
Yeah, I'm unsure where, and I know I said it earlier, but it just has me a little a little worried of where we're gonna end for
Yeah.
when it's all said and done.
Yeah, same. Same. I also, so here's a concern I've seen thrown around a lot, and I can't remember if we talked about this. I feel like we did talk about it last week, but now we're on the eve of it. You know, there's one episode left. It's presumably a battle at Tumbleton. 75 minutes. Do you think they're going to combine first and second Tumbleton or any aspect of them? Or do you think they're really going to keep them as two separate battles? So we end the season with one. We probably do see episode 1 or 2 is second
Hmm.
Tumbleton of next season. What do you think?
I think they're going to keep them separate. I think this is going to be the first official battle, and we'll eventually get to that second battle where everything we kind of get spoiler, light spoiler, get a conclusion to what's happening in Tumbleton. Win, draw, lose. We'll finally get that ending, but not sure how we're gonna pull certain elements to. I'm interested to see how. I guess at this point, what they're going to do for the show for that second Tumbleton.
Yeah, same. Because
Yeah.
the setup for the first one is very different right now. Because the Greens control Tumbleton. The whole thing in
Yes.
the book is the Blacks control Tumbleton, and that's why betrayals and stuff like that hit so badly because the Blacks are the ones in the city. The Greens are the ones in the city. I don't really know how that's gonna work. I think you're right. I don't think they collapse them because they'd be killing off like a third of their cast. Like spoilers, second Tumbleton has a lot of casualties. First Tumbleton has a few big ones, and I'm wondering if they're gonna happen the same in the show or if they're gonna save a few of those actors. There's some actors. There are two deaths in particular in the first Battle of Tumbleton. I won't spoil who they are, but one is an actor. Both characters are in the show. One is a character who has made a huge impact this season, who I could see them giving a big exit. One is a character who's barely had anything this season, who feels really underdeveloped. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they
Yeah,
do.
and I don't think we're gonna lose anybody no big character in Tumbleton at all this first
You
battle.
don't think so?
I don't think so. I think it's just gonna all be saved for that second one. I can definitely see that happen.
I feel like that would be a huge. I mean, you're probably right. You're probably right, but I feel like if there's one thing I hope this show learned from Game of Thrones, I feel like the biggest complaint I've always had with the long night, aside from just the fact that it wrapped up the White Walkers really quickly, is that no main characters died. Like it felt like the plot armor came out when they really needed it to,
Mm,
we have a few shots of like Jamie and Brienne like pinned to the wall by like 100 whites and they somehow survive. So there are things like that. I feel like if you're gonna have a massive battle and all your main characters have plot armor, that's a problem. And I
yeah,
think the Gullet did okay with this. So I hope Tumbleton does too, but we'll see.
yeah, and I can definitely now rethink my mind. The lesser character of the two you mentioned, they'll probably bite the big one, but everyone else is they're gonna be a
Man,
okay.
gonna feel like such a waste if that happens. But yeah, I mean, you're probably right because they probably just got that actor for the one season. So yeah, lots of stuff. Next week should be an exciting one. The finale. There's one other thing we didn't talk about this episode. That's my Saria. Just
I was
very,
just gonna say
very
too much.
brief mention here at the end. How'd you feel about my Saria being called out? Once a whore, always a whore, and then she turns around and seduces Rhaenyra.
uh, it's one of the assets she's unfortunately had to hone her whole life. She knows what she's doing. We know she knows how to get into men's head just based on that previous work she did.
Yep.
She's using that to get to Rhaenyra's head and to solidify her spot on this council because Rhaenyra, it was going to be on the outs a little bit. She had to re-ingratiate herself back into that Targaryen stronghold. So I think she earned her spot back. Not going to
Yeah.
be kicked out anytime soon.
Yep, I think you're right. Probably not until Rhaenyra finds out that she lied about knowing Helena was pregnant. If and
Yeah.
when that ever comes out, that'll be a bigger deal because she lied a second time about, or lied by omission the first time, lied to Rhaenyra's face the second time.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I was glad of this turn for Mysaria and Rhaenyra for a couple of reasons. One is just it's good character development for Mysaria. She hasn't had a ton this season, kind of hitting a lot of the same notes, which has been a few characters that kind of been hitting the same notes over and over again. It was good to see her confronted with this idea of you're kind of doing the same thing here that you did in Flea Bottom. you know, and her internalize that and then immediately turn around and actually do it, because I don't think she believed that. But then by the end of the episode, I think she believes it. I really liked that Rhaenyra called her on trying to manipulate her away from Daemon. I liked that bit of self-awareness there. I thought was really good, instead of Rhaenyra just being oblivious, because we already are annoyed at Rhaenyra enough as it is. She can be smart for a scene.
And then got immediately manipulated by
And then
Viserion.
got immediately manipulated. Yeah.
So yeah, she was smart. Like she had like 30 seconds. Really, like, you go Rhaenyra, you call her out, and she laid her down.
Yeah.
Never mind, never
You win
mind.
some, you lose some, Rhaenyra.
Yes.
I like that it brought it back around to the fact that they kissed last season too. It's I like that that's this the show has had a little bit of a problem with doing a thing and then just dropping it. You know,
Mm,
Allison got assaulted by Jasper Wilde, never been mentioned again in the show, like seemingly had no impact on Allison's character. Like, so I'm glad that the Mysaria thing came back around, because I liked that when they did it, because the complexity it adds to the Rhaenyra Daemon Mysaria kind of thruple there's a lot of potential there.
yeah.
So we'll see if they do anything with it, I guess, in the finale.
All right.
Anything else you want to touch on? We have managed to talk about this episode in about the exact same amount of time the episode lasts.
I know we had a lot of complaints from the episode, but there were things I think we both enjoyed. It's still
Yeah.
it's enjoyable television. Is it a different story than what we thought was going to be on the small screen? Yeah, yeah, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's elements of it aren't good. And I really do hope we do get a good, satisfying ending to this season, to end the seasonal story arcs, and overall when we do finally get that last season.
Yeah, totally agree. I think there have been a lot of things I've enjoyed this season. I think it's stronger than season 2. I think, season 2 has Rook's Rest, which is always going to go down as one of the best episodes of the show, I think. But this season has been a lot more consistent. There've been a lot of, good, solid plot lines and things like that, as well as some that are just unhinged and all over the place. So yes, there are qualms. The thing that was reported that George R. R. Martin said, like, this isn't my story anymore. Like, I can understand that, because it is
Yeah.
just an inherently different story. They're not really using almost any of the plot lines really from Fire and Blood at this point. Picking and choosing barely what they want. But it's still a good time. It's still one of the better fantasy shows that's on television. And yeah, I'm rooting for it to have a big finale, because I think a lot of the people working on this show are doing incredible work,
Yeah.
like the actors, the craftspeople. So here's hoping that we finish big in Tumbleton next week.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yes. For all of you watching, listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Check out winteriscoming.net, where we are writing about this stuff basically every day. Mark, where can the people find you?
Find me on the TikTok. Find me at house_of_nettles, at House of Nettles. You can find me, you see this face, you're in the right place, and find me on Instagram and YouTube as well.
And make sure to hit like and subscribe on this video if you've enjoyed it. If you want to hear more from us, find us on your podcast platform of choice. But until then, we will see you next week in Westeros for the House of the Dragon season 3 finale. Catch you guys then.